Episode 221 of the Love and Lebanon podcast shines the light on four significant topics within our community: water, the LEAP District, the future of State Road 39, and future public safety locations. Mayor Matt Gentry joins us to provide updates as our city continues to grow and set itself up for the future. Episode 221 of the Love and Lebanon podcast starts right now.
Welcome to the Love and Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to loveandlebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 221 of the Love and Lebanon podcast. Joe LePage here, the City of Lebanon Communications and Community Development Director. Just four topics for this podcast, but boy, are they significant. And we go right to the top and chat with Mayor Matt Gentry about all four big topics within our community. Mayor Matt, thanks for being here on the pod. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I just should have waited one more for 222, but it's all right.
Oh, we could have waited, but
That's
we didn't
all right.
want to make you wait until 250 or
That's
300.
true. That is
These
true.
are
That
things
is true.
that are...
Good to be back on here. Thanks for having me.
So the four topics we have, everybody, the status of water within our community, the Lebanon LEAP District or the LEAP District, State Road 39, the future of that, relinquishment from NDOT, and also public safety. We've called it public safety, LFD and LPD, kind of the futures of those. And so I want to start with State Road 39 or Lebanon Street runs right through our community. Indiana Department of Transportation, Mr. Mayor, kind of been talking relinquishment, giving it to the city as opposed to having NDOT updating it in the past couple of years, really picking up steam and kind of seeing a finish line for when the city may get the roadway.
Yeah, so let me go back. Obviously having the state road through your town's, a challenge sometimes because it is a state highway. And so, people always are like, hey,
why can't you fix the...
fix the potholes, fix this, fix that. And I'm like, I would love to, but it's a state highway. And if we do that, NDOT yells at us, which is never a good situation. So, obviously we've been hearing complaints and issues with 39 for a long time, frankly. Anybody that's grown up in Lebanon knows that it's a challenge. And so a few months ago, they kind of approached us and were essentially saying, what's your openness to taking this over from us? And the process is called relinquishment, where the state essentially hands over a state highway to a city. And so with that in mind, kind of the first thing we did was gauge the public. So if you guys remember, we had a fairly lengthy, I think 50 to 60 questions survey that we had online, tried to reach out to people and kind of get their feedback. And we got a great response. We had about 550 responses to that, I think more than that actually. But just kind of diving in from, have you ever been in an accident on 39? How safe do you think it is? When's the worst time to drive on it? How often are you going different routes? Trying to get a pretty broad understanding of what people's perceptions were of 39. And so we have that data, and then now we're kind of taking the next step with that. And there's going to be an upcoming open house here on July 22nd at 6 p.m. at the Herman B. Wells Center at the high school to just kind of lay out that information that we have shared it publicly before. We'll kind of share it again, but also just engage with people of where do they think the choke points are the problems, or where are the problem areas, or what are certain things you would want to see as we kind of start talking about these discussions, because certainly 39 is a major corridor for us, and I don't want to take the 39 on without kind of a plan or vision in place. And certainly any project on 39 would be significant, certainly to make it try to flow better, work better, right? And as the north side of Lebanon continues to grow, that's going to be an important corridor for us, right? So what are the options available to us that make both sense from a public support, but then also from a engineering standpoint too? And so really just try to kind of flesh those out, have those discussions, give us some very high level kind of cost estimates if we were to do some modifications and improvements to the road, and then kind of go back to NDOT and say, you offered us X, but really the amount that we think we need to fix it right is Y. Where do we find up in the middle, or figure out some strategy though to help us kind of fund that project going forward? So, because when there's a relinquishment, there is the state does give money. They do pay the city to do it, but of course we then all take the ongoing maintenance and costs, and so any construction in the future would be the city's responsibility. So there may be a way to kind of leverage those discussions and focus on that. So we'll kind of see where that conversation goes. We're excited to continue have those ongoing evaluation, and frankly, maybe have a solution that people can look forward to know that we're fixing a pain point for people in town.
And so everybody listening at home or in the car at work or wherever, this is a negotiation of sorts where you talk about X and Y being what's offered and then what's needed to kind of fix it up. That this is an open discussion, and
it absolutely is a
middle
negotiation.
ground,
Yes, I've talked with some other mayors, been through the process, and sometimes they would negotiate. They didn't have trucks that were big enough to handle the highway, so part of their negotiation was a certain amount of money, but then also plus street plows that are big enough to do it. So it is a negotiation. But again, as we're thinking about, if we all think there's a problem with 39, just taking it as is and then resurfacing isn't going to fix the problem, right? So what is the long-term solution? What's the best planned vision for that corridor to make it work for not just next couple of years, the new patch of asphalt, but really make it work for 20 years down the road.
Mm-hmm. And the discussion questions, the survey questions you put out there, and what you're wanting to hear from the community, I'm guessing you got some pretty solid feedback. What are some of the things anything that sticks out to you that you heard from the survey or saw that kind of piqued your interest a little bit?
Yeah.
I know things I saw and being able to be the admin on that were the ability to cross the roadway. I know we've all seen you've seen people in either motorized scooters or bicycles trying to cross all those lanes of the state road, and boy, that's tough. And then there are no sidewalks in a lot of the areas there, so you're walking in the grass. I mean, those are things that popped up, the questions I saw. But
yeah, there were a few things. For me, one thing top of my mind too was people didn't really think there was a speed problem on 39. It was more of a congestion and flow issue, which was interesting to me. Also certainly, you highlight the pedestrian stuff. That was something that was interesting to me, that very few percentage of people use the sidewalks along 39, but then they also, but they were open if they were better, right? Mm. So that was something that was interesting to me as well. And I would also say there was something about the concerns over kind of that shared turn lane. Some people call it the suicide lane, but kind of that shared middle turn lane, and trying to leave businesses, right, trying to cross out, trying to go north out of Kroger, right, or going south out of the Tractor Supply, right. It can get a little dicey sometimes, right? You're trying to cross two lanes coming at you into the center lane, and someone else is turning, so it gets a little chaotic. So that was something there were certainly some concerns about safety from that standpoint, and I think people obviously I don't want to bring up the roundabout word, but there certainly is a segment of population that was very opposed to it. But it did surprise me that there was quite a few, frankly, a majority of the community that was open to that discussion. So I think it's something we're going to explore, and if it makes sense from an engineering standpoint, we'll look at it. No decisions have been made yet, but I do think it's certainly part of the conversation, part of the topics to, if flow is the issue and we want to improve safety, those are kind of strong points of roundabouts. So we'll kind of see what happens with that through that process.
And when the relinquishment does take place, both sides agree, is it one of those where NDOT says go forth and do it, and our options are unlimited? You talk roundabouts and stoplights and that type of thing. Those being added, those are possibilities?
So if a fuller relinquishment happens, it essentially becomes like a city road. Okay. So, NDOT didn't have any say over control of how we built Fordyce Street or Fordyce Road here in town recently. So it would just be operated like that. So, yeah, if we have local control, and we can just determine what the best options and layout and engineering options would be, solutions would be for that project going forward. Gotcha.
Last question on this topic, Mr. Mayor, timeline with relinquishment and when, talking about a week from today, everybody doing this, the open house, when would things start to roll, and then possible completion, that type of thing?
Yeah, we're having this public open house here on the 22nd. I really hope people can join us for that. I think there'll be a really good conversation and just a vibes check, so to speak. But I do think with that, the goal of that is to have a document. We hired Avenue and then A&F Engineering to help do put together some high level cost estimates based on that feedback. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably get that in the fall sometime, and then we'll have discussions. We'll take that to NDOT. I wouldn't say NDOT always goes super fast with things, right? So they are very deliberate in how they operate. So this is not an overnight thing. This is not like we're going to have a plan and placement into the year. It's a ongoing discussions, but because of the legwork we're doing with the survey and with these open houses, I think we'll have, and then also this more or less study. I think it'll give us some good options of how to move forward with those discussions, and frankly, maybe even come up with a creative way to fund it. Leveraging what they would have offered us in cash for future grants for federal aid projects, right? So if it's an 80-20 split. NDOT's paying our 20%, federal government's paying our 80%, and so we're able to kind of leverage that long term. So those are some of the ideas we have, but we'll see where it all shakes out with it.
Gotcha. Topic number 1 complete here on episode 221 of the Lebanon podcast, chatting with Lebanon Mayor Matt Gentry here on the pod. First topic was State Road 39 and updates on that. And second, it continues to move at a breakneck pace, and something pretty significant happened in the LEAP district. Some filings from a company that we all use, I would say, on a daily basis. Updates, Mr. Mayor, on the LEAP district and specifically one of the companies coming out there.
Yeah, so high level, of course, Lilly, they're going gangbusters right now.
That's incredible.
Their LP1, LP2, LPX site. You go up north of, go drive along 300 and you can see all those cranes in the air and thousands of construction workers making it happen. So pretty exciting with that. They're still targeting the 26, 27 opening for those different phases of that. I met with a company the other day. They're going to start building the fire station for them as well up there too. So a lot of investment happening on Lilly, but of course recently we've had met at Facebook. They filed their plans for that.
So now we can say who it is?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I know you have.
I've
You
always
have.
Yeah. I know they didn't want to say it, but I wasn't going to improve incentives while people knowing who the company was. So, so they've filed those plans. Those will come to our planning commission, I believe in September, August, excuse me. So, but they want to still want to break ground later this fall. So pretty quick timeline for them as well. Obviously that's a big investment. The initial phase is $800 million, but they plan to do 6 phases. So all in the project would be close to $4.8 billion investment. So it's exciting one, but still a lot of details to work through, and of course has to be reviewed and make sure that it fits all of our planning rules and requirements, all of those things. So kind of a big milestone for Meta finally getting that filed, because that was obviously talked about at the end of last year.
And you talk about the Meta updates, you talk about all the cranes in the air with the Lilly project, and we kind of joked around about the pace of NDOT, but the new interchange, every time you kind of look in that part of town, if you drive up State Road 52 or along 65, boy, you can talk about moving gangbusters also.
Yeah, you'll see, you started seeing the dirt kind of happen first, right? Mm-hmm. And then now you're starting to see some work happen actually in the medians there on 65. So they are targeting opening of that new interchange north of town in 2027 as well. So that will be going pretty hot and heavy here soon as well. They've been doing a lot of the earthwork, a lot of those things happening, but that's moving along. Then of course we'll also see some work happening west on 32 as well. NDOT is planned to break ground in September on some work on 32 to add in roundabouts on 200 west, 300 west, and 400 west, kind of a phase 1, and then they'll do a new section, essentially taking out those S curves. Frankly, unfortunately, where we had some of the fatalities a few weeks ago. So they recognize those kind of an unsafe condition well before that tragedy happened. So they are trying to fix that, and that's kind of part of their larger plan for the LEAP district to kind of do a realignment of 32 as well. So that'll be kicking off. A lot of construction, a lot of equipment happening. Please just, everybody, if they're driving through there, just be aware of those construction workers and all of that. But a lot of work, a lot of investment, a lot of improvements in infrastructure happening. And
is it one of those things, I know several years back when the downtown was revamped, it was Embrace the Orange. We're knowing that a lot of dust and a lot of orange and a lot of big moving toys, moving stuff around, that type of thing, keeping our eyes on the prize, so to speak, when it comes to the development being complete. Similar situation, or we as a city, kind of the goal being to kind of, it is going to be something to deal with, but at the same time, the end result is going to be significant for our community for decades, to come, generations.
And we saw it on Fordyce Street, right? Construction is never fun. It's never fun. But I will hopefully that now people that live in that area and they use it now, the feedback's been great. They love the new road, the drainage is working, the street lights look great, the trail looks great. So it certainly is. Construction is not fun. I get that. I always understand that. But also, I just encourage people to really think about long term. Once you get through the pain of that, the value of the improvements, the value of it all being better and working better for everybody, that's really important. No one has invented a magic construction wand yet. So it can't happen overnight. So there is a process that has to go through. So I do think, I'm cognizant of that and understanding of that, but obviously there's a lot of things happening and a lot of timelines and a lot of pieces that are coming together. So it's a balancing act certainly too. Sometimes I see the discussion of, we need to do all this before development even happens and do it then. And, then you end up with a situation where you're building bridges to nowhere, right? Or you end up with road improvements that aren't ever used, right? Because you want development to be in coordination with the infrastructure improvements, because frankly, if you're doing those infrastructure improvements, those aren't ever cheap. And so if you do those improvements and investments without the knowing that there's a reason you're doing it, that's a very challenging and risky financial position to put a city in. So certainly I think people, I think they probably overstate the case saying, hey, we're not prepared, we're not ready. There are so many of these plans. We have so many of these projects that are ready to go, and the timelines will work out. And by the time that these places are fully up and running, the infrastructure will be right there, ready to serve them. And because of that, it'll serve the rest of the community too. And so, it is a process. Construction is a pain, but long term, it'll be a really great thing, I think, for our community.
And hopefully some of those naysayers will be able to see the new folks who have either are temporarily in town working or those who have moved to Lebanon excited to be here, and also the local businesses that are getting a shot in the arm and being really helped, propped up by a lot of the things, the workers and things that are taking.
Yeah, I think that gets overlooked a few times, but certainly I've talked with many local business owners, and they've seen a dramatic change in their business and how they're doing. Certainly bringing in a lot of workers like that, certainly from a food standpoint, is a huge boon. But then also from a housing standpoint too, and what that's doing locally as well. There's a lot of opportunities from Airbnb or new houses and things like that. So I do think that there is a rising tide. I think it's lifting a lot of boats. Certainly I understand LEAP is a polarizing topic and people have opinions about it, and they want, if you're against it, you want to find reasons to try to attack it. But I do think the ripples of it are so big that there's going to be a lot of people benefiting from it. And it's not just the companies, the big companies, right? Lilly and Met and all them and whoever will come in the future, but it really is about what this will do for our community and all of our small businesses and Main Street businesses. And I do think it will be a tide that will lift a lot of boats and frankly provide a lot of opportunity and future opportunity for people that probably aren't even born yet in Lebanon, and it's a lot of, for the long term, we talk about trying to keep our kids here and give them opportunities. This is how you do that, right? And that's you got to show them that there are opportunities in their own hometown, because if there aren't opportunities here, they're going to looking for them somewhere else.
Absolutely. We mentioned the rising tide and the ripple effect. It kind of leads quite easily transitioning into topic number 3 on episode 221 of our Love and Lebanon podcast, chatting with Lebanon Mayor Matt Gentry here. And that's the topic of water. Citizens, we got a call a couple weeks ago that things are rocking and rolling and beginning to head this way. Can you update us on the status of water heading towards our community?
Yeah, so earlier this year, we finalized all the agreements and all the financing and things like that for the water main extensions from citizens, so that they are planning to break ground on that project in September as well. And so that's on a very quick timeline to essentially deliver 2 additional 2 MGD, million gallons of water per day, to the city of Lebanon by January 1, 2027, and then additional 8 by January 1, 2028. So additional 10 MGD coming to the city. And I always talk about this, but our current system is 4.6 MGD. So huge increase of the amount of water coming to Lebanon. It's the same water they have in Zionsville. It's the same water they have in Whitestown, right? So this isn't some, terrible water that I've seen that online, which is funny, but this is
a different kind of water.
It's surface water. Okay. And they treat the water just like we do.
This is like a Parks and Rec episode. Seriously.
Sometimes. Okay. Yeah. No, so it's quality water. It's safe water. It's good water. It's the water that, Citizens is the largest regional provider of water in central Indiana, right? So it's the same water that all these other communities have as well too. So people trying to make an issue of that, I think just trying to stoke some fears that shouldn't be there, frankly. But so that's all chugging along. Certainly, it is a big project. There is a lot of water main to lay. It's not necessarily a complicated project. They are big pipes, but
I'm guessing it's tedious. One of those.
Well, it's tedious. You got to make sure, obviously, as they're going through the process, they have to make sure the pipes stay clean as well too, and they're not contaminated. So there's a process for that. But earlier this year, the utilities and the city selected Kokosing to do the work, and they've done a lot of local projects, and they've been, frankly, a great contractor, and we have full confidence in them, and they're great at what they do. So I think they'll be hugely successful with that project. And then you'll see a new water tower being built as well too. That's kind of part of the process. And then a new booster station, things like that, where the water comes in down by the connection point with Citizens near the Boone County Airport. So there will be some, but you start driving kind of the west side of 65. You'll start to see a lot of equipment there working in the easements along those county roads. A lot of that's water pipe coming in, and it will help create a loop around our system to help us move water around our system as we need it. So it's been, Lebanon has been looking for water for a long time. You remember previous mayors working on this.
Yeah.
So finding a solution where it's not actually burdening our current ratepayers, I think we have found, frankly, kind of the silver bullet to solve a huge problem we've had without burdening ratepayers. And I think that gets lost a lot of times because if we didn't have LEAP, if we didn't have all these things, we didn't have the demand for it, if we were just trying to go out there and do this ourselves, talked about earlier the last segment about the, building things before you're ready for it. We probably would have seen a doubling or tripling of our water bill, everyone, just because that's how much pipes cost. So it's a significant project, but it will be kicking off here soon, and they've got a timeline to hit, but Kokosing is very confident that they can hit all those milestones and hit all of those benchmarks that they need to make sure that when they turn that valve on January 1, 2027, the water will be ready.
Yeah, and we talked about future growth, and you mentioned previous administrations and things along those lines. It is a significant topic, and one that would be a tremendous financial lift. Just look to our south, where a community there is kind of faced with trying to fund some things and dealing with their utilities in a different situation. We, as you mentioned, have a different solution where while a significant amount of that water will be towards the LEAP district, this kind of reinvigorates some of the projects that were kind of put on pause, the future home developments and commercial ones as well. Those things eventually the pause button will be hit again and things will go back into play.
Yeah, we actually, once we got under contract for the water, we actually were able to, we met with all of the projects that had submitted plans to the city, and we were able to work through of how much they needed, when they needed it, how did they phase those in. So actually we were able to greenlight every single project that had submitted, that's been approved already. So, and now at this point, because it's the way timeline works, any new projects are probably coming after 2027 anyway. So yeah, we had to hit pause for a little while, but now they're all moving forward. And up by my neighborhood, there's a new neighborhood going in. They've got homes starting to pop up. So similarly, I think you'll start to see all those projects that were submitted and approved from a planning perspective. They're able to have those resources they need, and the one-off homeowner as well that needed has had a lot for a long time but didn't build a house on it. There's water available for that too now. So really give a lot of credit to Ryan Ottinger and John Leitner at Butler Fairman. Ryan's at our utilities. Butler Fairman is a consultant that helps them do those things too. But really going through that process, analyzing how much water we use, how much water we need, what's actually truly available in our system, and frankly has done a really good job of being able to manage this process and then work through as we go through that. As we know the water is coming, we know we can kind of green light some things because by the time they finish construction, the water will be there and ready for them.
Fantastic. One topic left here on episode 221 of our Love in Lebanon podcast deals with public safety. And you may think that's maybe a back burner topic or a minor topic, but it is significant, and we'll share why in just a moment. We're talking about the Lebanon Fire Department and also the Lebanon Police Department. And so if we can kind of talk through those two entities, Mr. Mayor, the addition of a new fire station, if we begin with that one, what that would mean for our community. As we know, everybody, there's one along the north side of town. There's one right off the interstate, 10 and 11. And it looks like to help with the reaction to calls, there's another one going to be added.
Yeah, so obviously we have Station 11 down by the fairgrounds. That's relatively new. That was construction under Mayor Lewis. And then we have Station 12 up on Anderson Lane. That's just older than that. I think that was Mayor Acton, or during when that was built. So kind of early 2000s on that one. So we've got kind of north and south covered. But just based on the unique geography of Lebanon with the railroad track causing choke points, frankly, of response, we kind of have a response hole on the west side of the railroad tracks, but then inside of 65. And so because of that, really even since I came in as mayor back in 2015, this was one of the things I actually, in my transition process with Chief Batts, started talking about is, hey, a third station should be on your radar to be thinking about this. And so it's been in the plans and been in kind of the long-term goals, I think, frankly, since I've been the mayor. So it's exciting to see that we've been through that process. We are set to break ground here in September on that as well. A lot of big things happening September this year.
Yeah, no kidding.
So that will be essentially next to or right behind Aspire. They're on Sam Ralston Road. So just kind of catty corner from Menards, so to speak, if people can
Triangle
visualize.
asphalt kind of that area.
Yeah, that
too.
area,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there's kind of an empty lot there just south of the creek. The city's owned that for a couple of years now, and then so we'll be breaking ground there, and that'll be Station 13. We actually will be stationing and moving our ladder truck there because that will be the primary responder to the business park. And obviously with the business park, that will be, you need a little bit higher reach on some of those buildings. And so having the ladder positioned out there will be helpful from that standpoint. But then we're also working through a squad project too. And so this would be a response for more EMS type runs or runs that don't need the full ladder response, just to kind of better manage and better respond. So there are, with that big ladder, we want to, that's a very expensive and heavy piece of equipment. So just to avoid, maintenance costs and keeping the miles down on it and the runtime, Chief Batts came up with this squad strategy, and I think it's going to go very well for us, and we'll be able to respond because most of the responses that we'll have, frankly, that we have as our fire department, don't necessarily require a full ladder engine or a ladder response. And so having that squad will be a good solution for those things. And certainly having one on the west side of town will help significantly with responses, especially in the Prairie Heights, Marley, Arbor Ridge, all those types of neighborhoods over there kind of on that west side that are kind of bounded by the railroad tracks. So kind of fills a hole in our system and frankly it allows us to work much closer to getting an ISO rating of a 2. Currently we're a 3 and being a 2 would put us in I think that's top 2% of fire departments in the country. So really providing a great level of service for our residents and frankly a welcome peace of mind for people that know something goes wrong. We've got the team and got the equipment ready to respond as quickly and rapidly as possible, and it should be a good solution for us.
And if you've listened in previous podcasts, and if memory serves, Chief Batts has talked about not only is it quicker response for saving lives, but also that higher score or the lower score. really helps on property taxes and things along those
Yeah,
lines too. So it's financial savings for residents.
Yeah, it'll help on your homeowners insurance.
Okay, homeowners insurance.
Yeah, not property tax, so homeowners insurance. So when you look at that's some ISO rating is something that all these insurance agencies look at of when they evaluate for how to what's the risk of your home, right, and things like that. That's what insurance people do, right? So having these, it's an arduous process. Actually, you probably have Chief Batts come and talk about it because he knows more about it than any other human I know, and he'll nerd out on it with you, Joe. He'd love to, I'm sure, if you can get him on the podcast, twist his arm. But so they would. Because of having the higher rating, it certainly will help with the homeowners insurance cost, and it does impact businesses a lot too, right? Obviously, with the larger the businesses, it is a benefit to them. Certainly, they probably have a much higher insurance bill than your average homeowner does, but homeowners will see direct benefits as well too.
Fantastic. And so while the city had owned a lot for a number of years, and that's where LFD, the new station, is heading, LPD, Lebanon Police Department, has been in the same location for a number of years. And there have been a lot of Band-Aids, a lot of duct tape, a lot of chicken wire holding that thing kind of together over the years. And there's been some looking and kind of maybe finding a new home for our police department.
Yeah, this was so when I came in as mayor and did all these different kind of transition meetings and look at all these the kind of the city assets, so to speak. We had a street department garage from the 1940s. We had a gap in our fire protection over on the west side of town, and frankly, we have, I don't say crumbling police station. This is kind of, obviously not growing up here, I didn't have the full history and I had to kind of learn it. But the way that this building, it was originally built in 1965, and it was a combination, like this is going to be a lot of slashes, but combination city hall, utilities, police station, fire station, right? So all city service, everybody was in there together, right? I think even at one point, Center Township Fire was in there too with our fire department, right? So literally everybody was in this building, and kind of throughout the last 50 whatever it is years, can't do math right now. Different people have gotten different. Obviously, we built the city hall in 2004, so we moved out of here. They built the new fire station, things like that. So they've slowly been kind of moving out, and so police are left. They're kind of the Lone Ranger holding it down still, but obviously in a building from 1965, and so we started having some plumbing issues, electrical issues, and things like that, and as we kept digging into it, we essentially said, let's do an analysis of this building. What is the life expectancy of it? What does it look like? Which we did that study with DLZ. They helped us kind of do a space study with it. And it kind of told us what we kind of thought, but we're afraid to say out loud, was that it was past its useful life. And it's been a good building. It's served the city for a long, long time, but at a certain point, you got to put that horse out to pasture, right? And so we are in the very early stages of looking at what does the future of LPD look like. Where I've been kind of going around with Chief Morgan and touring some other police stations to see what other communities are doing, kind of finding what we like, what we didn't like, learning from them, getting feedback, but then also thinking about the way the police department works. Is probably easier to build a new station somewhere else and then relocate. We talked to some departments and they tried to just build or kind of manage the construction as they were there, and they're like, that was just a complete nightmare. They're like, just build it somewhere else, and then when you're ready, everybody move. So with that, the city has to pursue and look at of what sites make sense just from a service standpoint. Police is a little different, where obviously fire departments have to be geographically located just based on apparatus and response. Of course, the police station is more, the people that are in there all the time are your admins, and our police department officers are out in the community, right? So the geographic location isn't as critical, but certainly I'm thinking as bigger vision for Lebanon, and how do we, try to check more than one box? Do we try to do it with a parking garage? Do we try to do some of those other things people have wanted? Try to pair it all together as one project. Obviously, with the police department, you need a secure motor pool to make sure that happens. But there's no reason, we went and toured the one Lafayette, and The lower level of a parking garage was the police secured motor pool, but then up above it was parking for the public parking garage. So, we're kind of evaluating that, looking at that. We have a really good space study from the DLZ that I said that kind of gives us an indication of, looking forward 25, 50 years for LPD, how much space will we need? But those are just boxes; those are actual designs. So it kind of gives us kind of an idea. But this is probably more complex than all the other ones. Building a fire station, that's not a complicated process. Or as complicated as building a new police station, because frankly, policing is changing a lot too of what their role is and how do they integrate the community. And I've a lot of departments we've talked to is like, we really want to make sure we have community rooms there and ways for them to engage with the public and provide training and provide be able to host community events and have that community engagement is such a big piece of policing that really was never even fathomed, I think, back in the 1960s when that building was first built. So, lot of discussions to happen. That is not a short-term project. That is
no
a
groundbreaking
long-term.
in September.
No, absolutely not groundbreaking in September. I don't know, maybe September 2028.
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
if we're shooting for that, but that's probably a more realistic timeline. This. I don't really expect to see that happen. Really in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, I think it's one of these things. We want to make sure we're doing our homework, doing our research, make sure we're planning, and then find the site and then figure it out and of how we put it all together. But it is a process. But we have started that process. It is a conversation that's needed. Obviously, with the growth happening, we're going. I think back in 1965, I think we had 6 police officers, and we're up above 40 now, right? And so I don't think it's unreasonable, though, to think by 2030, we've got closer to 50, right? And what do we have in 2040, right? So you start looking out, we're gonna reach our capacity, or we frankly already have reached our capacity of our current station. So it's a matter of managing that, keeping that asset going, but knowing that there is a longer term plan that needs to happen with that.
And I'm guessing we'll probably have you on a podcast at some point, maybe Chief Morgan along the way to share the updates when
just twist Chief's arm too. I'm sure he loves doing these too, but no,
as much as Chief Pat's.
Yeah, no, it's been a good process. It's been, I think Chief Morgan too, he's been with Lebanon Police Department for a long time as well. I think he knows for the future of the department that something needs to change. And I think frankly he's excited about it. He goes on, as we go on these tours together, look at these. It's interesting. We have obviously I have coming from a civilian background. I'm looking at certain things, then he's looking at other things, and we're able to kind of compare notes. And he's like, something I thought that was interesting. He's like, oh yeah, I saw that. It was interesting, but I would absolutely never do that.
Okay.
So really
different
having
lenses.
that, so different lenses is helpful. So having that kind of combination of obviously me worrying about the money, how much it's going to cost, and then him worrying about the operations, how's it going to work, I think are going to be 2 important pieces for that.
Fantastic. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us and going through our 4 big topics.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
A lot of things going on within our community, everybody. And thank you for listening to this episode. More episodes coming your way soon. Take care.